and welcome back to the AI Marketers Playbook, where we cover actionable frameworks to help you leverage AI and marketing strategies in your business. I'm Audrey Chia, your host, and today I have with me Matt Parker, someone I've been looking forward to speak with. Now, Matt is a copywriter and content strategist who teaches founders and CEOs how to write fast, easy, and fun LinkedIn posts. He also plays a strategic advisory role at Magic Post, an AI-powered LinkedIn content creation and management tool that has recently raised quite a big sum of money to a valuation of 2.2 million. Now, beyond advising, Matt is also known for experimenting with AI to systematize writing techniques, including building custom GPTs that replicates his proven hook styles and framework for LinkedIn. Matt, I am very excited to chat with you today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to meet you finally.
It's nice to meet you finally. And I think it's really exciting because we are both copywriters and we both love content strategy and AI. But for listeners who may or may not know you, could you tell us more about your journey, how you stumbled into the world of LinkedIn, how you made it your thing, and how you got started with AI on this journey?
Yeah, sure. So I started posting on LinkedIn about 4 years ago now, so January 2022. The reason I started posting was it kind of coincided with me starting my copywriting business. I kind of fell into copywriting, to be honest with you. I spent like ten years in marketing, just in 9 to 5. A town where I grew up in England, I worked at a horticultural e-commerce company for about 8 years, and then moved to London and started working in B2B for another 2 years. So within that space of time, worked 10, 15 different jobs within marketing. So marketing was always my kind of core skill. Um, and then met my now wife, and then after COVID and all that kind of stuff happened, we decided to move from London to Cyprus. So a bit of a change of environment, and around that time when we moved was when I decided to start my own thing, which was copywriting. I always loved writing when I was younger. I was always the guy at school, like in English class, writing the like creative stories for like alternative beginnings to books and things like that. So that was always something I loved. So it was kind of combining my marketing experience, which I'd had like a decade of, and my love for writing, which is for me, it's my preferred kind of communication. I'm better at writing than I am speaking.
Awesome. And I think it's very interesting, right? Because you came from that marketing slash copy background. And when AI came along, how did you feel? Because for me, my client actually sent me a link to ChatGPT and he said, Audrey, you are going to be replaced. So that was my first encounter with
Wow.
AI. Yes, I actually got that text and still have it now. What was your first encounter with ChatGPT and how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I definitely didn't get any messages like you did. but
Lucky
but
you.
yeah, yeah, no, that must have been pretty scary. Sorry you had to get that. Yeah, it was pretty weird because all the chat was. It felt like the chat immediately was what jobs is this going to replace, and everything you'd see. There's a lot of content going around, and everything you'd see, writing would be right at the top in one of those kind of jobs that would be replaced. So it was definitely pretty scary. I think for me the the thing that gave me confidence was the fact that I'd already been established on, I'd established my audience online. I'd already, built up some authority. I'd already been posting for like very consistently and built an audience of, I think probably about 40, 50,000 on LinkedIn and then a few thousand on Twitter. Um, so I wasn't like massively over concerned, but obviously, yeah, it was pretty scary to just kind of see like this tool that anyone could, essentially access for $20 a month or around that, and get it to write you things. But obviously, as soon as it came out, everyone was testing things and trying it out and writing different things with it, and it soon, very soon, came to light that it was either really bad at writing, or you had to be an incredibly good, an incredibly skilled prompter, prompt engineer, whatever you want to call it, to actually get the response, the level of quality of writing that you want out of it. So even amongst that, and it's been sort of 2 or 3 years since ChatGPT specifically has been around now, and Yeah, I think it's become quite clear to me anyway that the
Yes.
strategy around writing and content and copy and all of that has just become even more important because that's the side that you really still struggle to get out of ChatGPT. And if you have the strategy mind on you when it comes to writing and content, then ChatGPT is just amazing for that because you can just input all of your knowledge and it can help just bring out such a higher quality of output.
Definitely. I actually like what you said about strategy, and it's very interesting that we're having this conversation because typically when you chat with new clients, right, most of them think content is just words. They think copy is just writing. They don't understand that there is so much that goes behind it, the psychology of persuasion, using specific tactics, understanding the audience insights, right? So maybe you can tell us more like how do you think strategy matters when it comes to using AI tools? Because most people would just ask ChatGPT to write a piece of content without that much thought.
Yeah, so the strategy behind specifically copywriting and writing. I'll give you an example. So say example a person logs into ChatGPT and they do what you just said. They have no idea about the strategy behind copy. They just want words that they can post on LinkedIn. So they log into ChatGPT and they type in, write me a LinkedIn post about X topic. ChatGPT then gives them a post. Now it is actually, to a decent level where you can get quite a good sort of mobile optimized
Yes.
style LinkedIn post, whether it's ChatGPT, Magic Post, or any other tool that you're using. Um, um, but your ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using is or specifically ChatGPT is going to write what it thinks you want. And if you haven't given it much information, if you've just given it 8 or 10 words, write me a LinkedIn post, that's just what it's going to do. That's, if you said that to a human, they would just write it and you wouldn't know what kind of level of quality is going to come out of it. So then if you take the, example B, this person knows, the pain points of their audience. They know exactly who they're targeting, who they're trying to speak to. They know the different types of content. So, for example, broader content, which is going to appeal to a broader audience, or a more specific type of content, which is going to be more, conversion orientated. Um, if someone has all of that strategic knowledge and understands, how uh, not just not just how a piece of content needs to be written at a micro level, but how it impacts the macro. So there's that in play. So you can, if you're very good at prompting and you have all that strategy in your brain, you can insert that into whatever tool you're using to help AI create a better post. But you can also, if you have the actual understanding of copywriting itself, and how copy should be structured. So, for example, a total beginner or someone who knows nothing about copywriting won't understand that you need that like for example, the problem agitate solution framework. That's a very common framework in the copywriting world. And the idea behind that is that you start your whatever piece of writing you're writing with a problem that your target audience experiences, like a pain point, so they can resonate with that pain point. And then you agitate it, you make that problem feel a bit more real, show them that you understand their problem, and then you introduce a solution. So whether that's your product, whether it's a solution that you just found in your day-to-day life or day-to-day work. So these sorts of things, understanding frameworks and structures of copy, enables you to get such a more impactful and more effective piece of writing, purely because you know what order these words need to go in. So if you don't have that understanding, then you're not going to be able to say this is good or this is bad.
Yeah, definitely. I think one mistake that most people make is they put out content for the sake of it, right? So even when you read it, there isn't a clear takeaway, there isn't a clear problem you're trying to solve. And they think that just because I'm posting something means I'm visible, means people are going to remember me. But I like to ask, right? Sure, you can create AI generated content, but does it convert? And that's another question. And maybe, Matt, what have you found AI is particularly good at, and what is it not that great at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can completely vary depending on how skilled you are at using the tool. But I've worked with CEOs of, like 7, 8 figure companies. And one of the things that I definitely learned from them, and specifically someone who was the CEO of an outbound marketing agency, was that, you know, a tool is just a tool. It's the person behind the tool that really matters and the strategy that goes behind it. So um, what it's good at and what it's bad at. I think it's actually what's the person good at and what's the person bad at. I think that's the more important question. Because like we were just talking about, that's the person is still directing what it gets out of the tool. So for me, what I find it incredibly useful for is if I have these frameworks and structures for writing posts and writing copy that I know work, because I've been writing posts on LinkedIn for 4 years now, posted thousands of pieces of writing. I have a decent understanding of what works and what doesn't. So if I can give so what this is what I like to do in Magic Post is I like to put my kind of best templates, best frameworks into Magic Post, and then I'll give it a subject, and it will write up a first draft of whatever topic or thing that has happened to me that I want to talk about, and it will then give me a really good first draft based in the structure that I want to write. So then I can just take that away, tweak, edit, do whatever I want to it. Um, and also, and again, one of the best things about Magic Post and one of the great features that they've introduced since I've been advising them is you can essentially tone match. So you can pull in your tone of voice from your historical data on LinkedIn, and those first drafts will be much closer to your actual tone and how you write, which is pretty scary sometimes. So it's incredibly good at that. So I think the level of first drafts that you can get out is incredible now. And obviously the speed in which you can create those now is just it's just unbelievable. So if you have these frameworks and structures that have worked in the past, you've got the capabilities with a tool like Magic Post where you can pull in your tone of voice and essentially just match your tone of voice from all of these different pieces of content that you've written in the past. Then you're taking a huge chunk of time, energy out of that whole creative process, which is a debate whether that process should be a long and painful one or a quick and easy one. Um, just saves so much time and so much energy if you're, wanting to put daily content out. So it's incredible for that, going from idea to first draft. It's just made it instant essentially. That's something it's amazing at. I think something it's bad at still is um, sometimes I'll feed it something and I want it to come back in a kind of conversational way, in like a human way, but it just you read it and
It's
it's
still
just not for you.
AI.
Yeah, it's just still too AI, and I'm not sure when that will go. I think it's just a human intuition thing.
Yes, I think what I've noticed, ChatGPT, I think what everybody has noticed is that it likes the M dash. But for a writer, you would notice similar patterns, sentence structure. So if you're
Mm,
not a trained copywriter, you probably would, it sounds okay to you. But because you are a writer, right, you understand sentence structure. So you would see that, it's repeating three of the exact same sentence structure in one LinkedIn post. I think that is something I've observed. Have you seen that?
yeah, I have. There's one that has been going around the last couple of months on LinkedIn where it's like um, they'll mention a result that they just got, and then immediately after that they'll say no something, just this, and it's like it's everywhere, every single post, and I'm like AI.
Yes, I
It's
think
so
the
funny.
other one that I've noticed is it likes to say, but here's the thing, I've seen it like
Mm,
1,000 times. But
yeah, I
I
think
think it's, yeah, you saw it.
yeah, I think that's quite a common one anyway, to be honest. I think because the AI is learning from obviously what everyone is posting on the internet and the stuff that performs well, it's kind of pulling these little things from it, and you're like, it's just coming up too much now.
Yes, so I think the human aspect is still very important, right? Because although you want to use AI in your process, adding just that tiny 20% of that human touch makes it sound so much more like you, helps you to remove all the, identifiers so that the post seems a lot more authentic. I think one interesting thing that I've realized is ChatGPT's memory feature is very great at understanding your tone of voice. So even now, when I ask it to write a LinkedIn post, I don't have to give it examples or reprompt it. It already knows how I sound, and I think that's also incredible. Besides ChatGPT, what other AI tools are you currently using, Matt? Whether it's for copy or other endeavors.
Yeah, so I'm mainly just using two. I'm a pretty simple guy, to be fair. I don't overload myself with tools, but ChatGPT I use for a lot of, like, to be honest, just day to day things. Like, I'll ask it questions just about things that I want to know the answer to, like my washing machine's broken, how do I fix it? Stuff like that. But then also business wise, I'll use it to, ask questions around like if I want to hit, 500K in revenue next year, can you give me a kind of playbook to how that might look and what I need to do based on what I'm doing at the moment? So it's really helpful for being that kind of like strategic partner, kind of advisor
Yes.
kind of thing. You can just ask it questions and get second opinions. And then for everything content wise, I just use Magic Post. So um, the AI functionality of it is super useful because, like I mentioned, that processor I mentioned earlier, where it just takes you from idea to first draft is amazing. Um, and then not even AI related. I just use it to schedule all my content. Look at all my analytics, pull ideas from what other people are posting, save templates. All that I manage all of my content inside Magic Post. It's super useful. So some days I don't even need to log into LinkedIn, which is which is
Wow.
great.
See, so it's just working like a machine. Tell us more a bit about
Yeah.
Magic Post, right? What made you decide to say yes to being an advisor for this tool?
So it was. So I think I first found the tool. So it's September 25 as we're recording this. So I think it was maybe the start of 2024. So it was probably about 2 years ago now when I first found it and started and gave it a test run. And the feeling that I got when I was using it was that feeling of like, I wish I had this when I first started. And I think that is so important for like a good product. It was simple. It was very much like, you know, you could use it in a way that was so beginner friendly, and it would just help you. There was just something about it that just gave me that feeling of like I wish like this is what I wish I had when I started. Because when I first started posting on LinkedIn and writing content, I found it really difficult, because I was doing what everyone did. I was writing posts and it was getting no engagement. Um, and it wasn't until I started, kind of not imitating, but looking at what other creators were doing and kind of using that as inspiration to write my own content to then, get more engagement. Because these proven structures and formats are, you know, they work for a reason. So if I can replicate those, but just put my ideas and my experiences into those, then in theory, my content should perform better. So back then I had to do that all manually. I used to have to find the post, click save it, create a swipe file, save it somewhere on your desktop and go through it all. But now with Magic Post, I use that all just in one place. And that's what I wish I had when I first started. I wish I had that one place where I could have all my templates, all these posts, just a living swipe file that I could just collect stuff, write quicker, get help with AI kind of helping me write first drafts and just so I could go through, tweak and schedule it and be done with it. Um, so that was the feeling that I got when I first started using it. And then it wasn't until I think sort of January, Feb uh, 2025 when Naile Tita, the founder, reached out and he said, "Look, would be interested in having you on as an advisor." And we just started talking and found a kind of partnership that worked for the both of us. So it's been awesome being a part of it. Just you know helping build a tool which I'm also using to help, do my job easier and but also being able to understand, what did Matt need when he was first starting, and what do all the other Matts need now, and what are they, because I get so much feedback from my audience on LinkedIn, from my clients, from customers, and people in my private community and stuff like that. I know all the problems that people are experiencing, so I can use all that info to, help bring them a better tool, the tool that I always wanted. So it's a really nice kind of situation to be in, to be able to help build that tool, and obviously grow a really smart um, a really smart company.
I think it's always great when a product is built based on real pain points, right? There are thousands of AI tools out there, and not every product has found its product market fit. And I think having worked with startups, you would also realize that the startups that succeed, they find a real pain point that it's not really just a a vitamin, right, but a painkiller. And for many people, LinkedIn is painful, and therefore having a product that solves that real need is definitely something that everybody can look out for. I'm curious
Mm.
to also, ponder about this thought, because if AI is advancing already so quickly and will continue to advance. Plus, there are so many amazing tools that can support anyone and help them to become a better writer. Where does that leave, creators who want to build a LinkedIn profile, but yet now are in a place where there is huge competition from people who are producing super high quality content? How would someone stand out? What are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the like you say, so AI's come along. It's essentially created this scenario where information is just even more widely available. If you think about someone's knowledge set, their kind of the amount of information that they have in their brain and that they understand, and the amount of knowledge that they have um, on X topic, like a topic or a niche, that is the bar has now been raised to an extent where like the base level of knowledge and information that an understanding of that knowledge on any topic is just the same. Like I can go on to ChatGPT, for example, now and write, something like, tell me everything about, like commercial fishing, for example. Tell me everything about that I need to know. It will tell me everything that I need to know, and I can then potentially just ask it to and just say, "Can you create me 10 LinkedIn posts about commercial fishing?" And then it will write me 10, and it will just spit out information. So we're now in a position where the majority of people can do that. So posts that are just information they're not dead. I'm not going to say something. I don't like saying something's dead. They're not dead. There's still a need for information. People follow people on LinkedIn for to keep up to date with what's going on in their industries and things like that. So information is still very valuable, but it's just enabled the amount of people who can post the same level of information as before, very intellectual or smart people or very experienced people could. So now what we need to do to stand out is write from your specific lived experience. So what I mean by that is, I've been in marketing for 10 years. I worked at one of, these two companies. Within those companies, I was learning, all sorts. There was different lessons that I learned, different mistakes that I made, different wins that I had throughout that time. Different things that happened in my life throughout that period of time. These are all things that only I can write about. So no one else can write about that. So if you think like when you go into ChatGPT, everyone can write about that thing that I was just talking about, but no one can write about the exact thing that has happened in my life, my experiences, the lessons I've learned. So these are the things that you need to be talking about now to really stand out. And the more the more kind of like actually it's like this, I kind of call it this like race to prove that you're human, like whoever can prove that they're human the fastest wins kind of thing. So like whoever's the most human wins. And it's like a situation where, if you're posting a picture or something, if it's like it doesn't need to be this kind of polished, superbly branded picture. That's lovely, obviously, for like a company or if that's the perception that you want to create of yourself, then that's great. But for personal brands for like myself and for you, where maybe you're like a one person business, or even if you are just the CEO of a company that is not so buttoned up, or in a niche where it's so professional and corporate, you can just be yourself and you can post pictures which are not so polished. It's of your day-to-day life, screenshots of chats with your clients and happy customers and things like this, like day-to-day raw, just very human things that are just normal but so uniquely you. That's the stuff which I can't stress is enough importance on.
I think as the world becomes more AI, we need to be like what you said, increasingly human, right? And that's the only way to stand out. So even for me, I think what could help is although everyone has access to the same information and knowledge, it's also how you present it, how you engage your reader, whether it's through your personality, your tone, or using visuals, right? These all help, and even creating videos. And the reason why I think videos are also important as much as they don't receive maybe the same reach as perhaps a carousel, I think it's important to build that sense of trust. The more people hear you as a human and get to know you, they also feel connected in a certain way, and that could also help you to have the conversations that you want to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, in what I do, where I essentially advise and coach, CEOs, founders of, companies to write, and I'm working one to one with those people. We're on calls every couple of weeks. So I'm recording myself, auditing their posts. There's a fairly intimate relationship going on. So if there's any way for me to prove to my audience that, like, hello, I'm human, I'm real, this is what I'm like, this is what it would be like to talk to me on a regular basis, to work with me, that's the best way to do it, through video. And like you say, it's not about the engagement that you get, it's about the impact that you have with, like, just a very small portion of people who happen to see that video. If they can hear you speak, if they can see the way you talk, and the kind of the things that you believe in, and just your kind of general vibe and tone, and kind of like aura and things like that, like, it matters. We humans, we have like this kind of chemical thing, where we like certain people in for certain reasons, and we dislike people for certain reasons. So I think, especially with consultant kind of relationships, it's important.
Yes. I would like to also ask you a bit about your journey, building a business on LinkedIn. A lot of our listeners are either solopreneurs or people who are in lean teams that are building businesses, and you have, leveraged the platform to its best of its potential. Tell us more about that journey. When did you really find that unlock? I know a lot of people have tried to leverage LinkedIn for lead generation, but might have failed in the process. And to really build a sustainable business on it takes a lot more than just posting content daily. So, what was the experience like for you, and when did you find that unlock?
Mm. So it took me, so like I said earlier, I started posting on LinkedIn in January 2022. Um, the things that I was doing or posting about at the start was basically just, I was still learning about copywriting, so I was posting all the things that I was learning about copywriting. So I was just posting educational content around copywriting. Back then it was completely different to now, obviously, because of the reasons that we've been discussing, and that content would perform a lot better then than it would now. But the I was posting every day. It probably took me about 6 or 7 months to actually get a proper client, so retain a client. The big unlock for me at the time was, as someone who had literally never run a business before in his life, was get retainer clients, going from just a one-off project to retainer. So, having someone who's paying you every month to do a service for them. That blew my mind at the time. I was like, what? This is how you do it? And as soon as I understood that, then, you 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 start talking, by posting every day, and showing that I'm competent in this topic, and then also using my LinkedIn post as essentially kind of proof of, this is what your product could look like, essentially. People started reaching out to me. I did a lot of work in sending connection requests and engaging with my ICP, and uh, building my profile in a way that, in my headline, spoke specifically to, agency CEOs, which is who I was working with at the time, very specifically. But it was a trial and error process of talking to people, doing a bit of work with them, and thinking that's not really the kind of person who I want to work with, but then finding someone else and saying, that is the person who I want to work with. So I'm going to talk to them more and not talk to the other people. So it was a big iteration process, and that's still happening to this day, 4 years later. Um, so the big kind of unlock, to be honest, was, it was just doing the same stuff, like, just over and over again. Just, I've been doing it for so long now. Other people have been doing it a lot longer than me, but posting on LinkedIn, um, the process of just being consistent, and posting, and continually wanting to get better and learn how to try different things, and look different in my posts, and um, you know just consistent, constantly trying to actually get better and learn new ways of doing things. I think there's a lot of people that I speak to, and new clients, and things like that, who they're often just afraid to actually test new things, because they write a post in a certain way, and they think, that's just the way, that's the only way you do it. But there's all these different formats and structures and ways in which you can different things to test, like, writing about different things about your life, about your business, about your expertise, different pain points, different topics. There's so many different things to write about and test, that we need to be more comfortable with kind of looking stupid and putting a post out that doesn't really work, and then with the chance that it could take off, and because it's something completely different to what you've already tried before, that's the risk you're taking. That's the whole point, right? You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect the same results. So, um, that's something that I've always just been open to, is always to trying new things, testing new things. I think that's probably the marketer in me. I'm always looking at something as a test, or there's no kind of right or wrong answer. It's just trying lots of new things. So there's not been one kind of singular unlock, but there was definitely periods over that kind of first or second year where, there was a kind of acceleration of follower growth. Around the end of my first year, there was this particular type of content which I started posting, which was like very behind the scenes educational content that just started doing really well for me. And then I started posting carousels in that format. That just accelerated my growth rapidly, and went from, 0 to 100K within 18 months. Um, since then, it's been a lot slower because I've been doing different things with my business, and, talking to different target audiences at different periods of time, and, working my business out and figuring out what's going to be best for me, revenue wise, and that sort of thing. So, um, but yeah, it's just always being open to testing new things. I think that's something that I've always been pretty good at, to be honest.
Yeah, I think having a growth mindset is very important, right? A lot of people think
Yeah,
that you need to get it right the first time. But actually, even when I work with startups and founders, right, I tell them I don't know what is the best value proposition for you. And nobody will know until we put it out in the market and let the market respond. So
yeah,
sometimes we really have to just change the headline and see what happens, right? Because what we think could be the best approach may not be the best for the target audience. And having that strategic mind to even consider different angles, that is essential. Whereas if you were to just use AI to create content, you might take it at face value and assume that that could be the best angle because ChatGPT recommended it. And sometimes it doesn't work out that great. So having that perspective is really important. And maybe Matt, for people who are solopreneurs trying to build their business, have you found a model that maximizes your time? Because you only have 24 hours a day. Everyone does, right? So how do you build something beyond yourself if you are kept by time?
yeah. So I've I've always been I've always been very wary of burning out. That's something that I just absolutely do not want to get to. Um, so I've always been very conscious of that, and I've always been very aware of, my who I am as a person. Which, as a solopreneur, you are the business. I am the business. If I'm not here, then the business is gone. At the moment, which, needs to change that in the future, but for the moment, it's okay. So, being very self-aware of that has always been very important for me. So, throughout, even from start to now, I've always capped the amount of people that I work with. Even from the first, five clients, that I got. So, for context, I was a ghostwriter at first, LinkedIn ghostwriter. I think my first retainer model was, I think, 900 a month, £900 a month, writing five posts a week for the client, and we'd get on a call every week, and I'd write the post for them, get on a call, and la, la, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and I always capped that at five people at a time, because I just knew that if I took any more than five, I would just, for me at that time, I would just get overrun, and I was still figuring it out. So I gave myself that grace to, that space to figure it out and do things wrong, and learn. So I gave myself about 6 months to kind of do that. And in the process, with after those first few clients that I got, I then raised my prices more, and then I raised my prices again. So with every client that dropped and every new one that came on, I had a new testimonial, so new proof that I was doing a job well. And then that enabled me to charge more because my audience was growing at the time as well. I was getting more engagement. My personal brand was growing stronger and stronger. My testimonials were getting stronger and stronger. So I was slowly just charging more and more and more. So then by the end of the first year, I was able to charge. I think 3,000 a month for ghostwriting. So, tripled my pricing within the space of essentially a year, which was amazing. So going into the second year of business I was really optimistic about all that. Um, so the ghostwriting stuff was quite, um, it's hard work. It's a lot to be able to have to write for someone else, to essentially be someone else. But it was, the systems I had down was pretty much, it was I would use Trello a lot, so I'd host everything in Trello. Back then, I would get on a call every sort of week or so with the client and ask them questions, record that, use that recording as ideas for my content. Um, and then, fast forward to now, I don't actually do any ghostwriting. I just consult and advise for clients, and what that looks like now is it's actually not that dissimilar to what it was before. It's been a pretty consistent process. So um, we have a Trello board with the client, so with whoever, the CEO of the company, whoever's writing the post, whoever I'm working with one to one, we'll have our own private Trello board. There'll be a support column so they can ask any questions they want at any time. I'll come back to those asynchronously. I'll either write a response. I voice dictate a lot, so I'll come back with detailed responses, or I'll just whip open a Loom and record some thoughts. They send me a couple of posts every week to review, and I again open up Loom, record my thoughts and feedback, and tweak and make changes and give it a full audit over Loom. So again, no live element up until now, and it's all done inside one platform. And then every 2 weeks we'll get together for a call and just for an hour and discuss strategy. See how things are going, check in on them. Anything we need to be doing more of, less of. Um, and that is the process that I've essentially refined. So because of all those years and time and reps I put into writing posts for myself for clients, I was then able to then do less essentially, and have a much simpler process that now I essentially do all of my client work on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then Monday, Tuesday, Friday gives me all this kind of space to write my content for the week, do other things, and it just gives me space and more energy to be more helpful for my clients, and my clients get really good results. So it shows.
Wow, and it's a win-win, right? Because your client, I'm sure they also learn a lot from you coaching them in the process. And for yourself, it gives you that flexibility and time. Is this something that you foresee yourself doing for a long term? Or are you, putting on that solopreneur's hat, that, family's hat? Is this something that you think you might want to scale into something else in the future? What does that entrepreneurial journey look like for you?
Yeah, I think the way I can see what I do going in the future is more. It's probably more similar to what this kind of situation I'm in, the partnership with Magic Post, where advising on uh, like either a new startup or some sort of business at a kind of company level, and guiding their strategy around using LinkedIn or just general marketing to grow their business. Like for with Magic Post, we've looked at not just LinkedIn content, but also their email strategy, their email marketing, product design and product building and features and all that kind of stuff. The UI, the UX, that's been important. That's been things that we've been having back and forth on. Sales strategy. So there's a whole host of things that just by running my own business, doing all of these things and having to manage all these things myself. And my business in total, from since I've started it to now, has generated around $1 million, which is insane for where I ever thought it was going to get to. And I've got all of that knowledge and skill set that I can pass on to companies who have a great product or a product which they want to improve. um, and I have my audience which I can tap into to help scale that business and all these learnings. So I think that's probably where I see myself going in a consulting and advisory kind of sense, working a bit more high level with companies that just want to grow their business in general, um, not just specifically around writing or content, but that still being the core of what I'm teaching, and the basis of how we grow that company. But in terms of kind of scaling my personal brand, yes, there's that kind of consulting and advising side of it, but then there's also, digital products. I've released a course at the end of 2023, which did about 80K in a 4-day weekend, which was pretty insane. That's something that I'll be looking to replicate a lot more in the future. Um, so, and obviously with digital products, you build it once, you sell it, and you don't have to deliver anything essentially. So that side of thing is a really scalable option for me, digital products, and then also community. So I've been actually very quietly building a community in private, which is called Copy Builders. It's a community, based in school for anyone who wants to, enjoy writing on LinkedIn more, do it quicker, make it more easy for themselves, and help them to build an audience, grow their reputation online. Um, been quietly building that, and we're up to about 170 members now, which is really cool. So that's a very scalable model for me as well, because it enables me to help, hundreds and hundreds of potentially thousands in the future, all in one place without having to be in all different directions all at once.
I think it's really interesting that you're diversifying, right? And it's cool that your core skill set is the same, but behind it, there's so much more you can do. And I think as a copywriter, marketer, a lot of people think that our skill sets are limited to producing content, getting something out, talking about the latest company update. But behind that, there is all these, right? It's like playing chess. Behind the scenes, you're thinking about all the moves, but what someone sees is the move. But behind that, I know you are thinking and tinkering with ideas, and that's the amazing part. So maybe to wrap things up, Matt, perhaps you could give our audience 3 tips if they want to start building a business on LinkedIn. What are 3 essential things they should do today?
Mm. So the one of the most important, so one I would say if you're starting a new business, I would actually say no, don't worry too much about who your ICP is. That's one of the questions I get the most is I don't know who my ICP is. I didn't know or I thought I knew who my ICP was when I first started. That was completely different to who my actual ICP was and who needed my service. So my first thing would be don't worry about who your ICP is. Make a guess or a good assumption at who you think it is. Post, do all the things you need to try and generate business. If it's not working, then look at the data and rethink and do something else. Um, Two, one of the things that I did not do at the start was offer my services for free. I know that's quite a bit of a contentious one for freelancers and solopreneurs. A lot of people don't like the idea of doing work for free. Obviously, no one likes the idea of doing work for free. But if you're trying to build a business and trying to build recognition and build a reputation and show proof that you can do something, um, if I could go back, I wish I would have offered things to do, ghostwriting for people for free for a month and then in exchange for a testimonial. I think that would have accelerated my business a lot faster than it already did. So that would be my second piece of advice for sure. And then three, uh, I would say be patient, be very, very, very patient, and just so many people that I speak to, younger people as well. I'm 32 now, and I've spoken to 21-year-olds, even teenagers who are starting their own business, and they're already getting annoyed because they've been doing it a month and they haven't gone viral yet, or they're not hitting the targets that they want. And you just be patient. Like if you're young, you've got so much time in your hands. Um, just be patient, take things slowly. Don't over. It's no good to get in a position where you suddenly just blow up overnight and you just can't handle it, because that sort of extreme, in my opinion, is not a good thing at all. I would much rather grow at a steady pace than just blow up overnight and then be going through these ups and downs. So I would say be very, very patient, take things slowly, and trust yourself really.
I think one thing that I could add to that is from what you've shared, I love your growth mindset and the idea that you don't always have to get it right the first time. It's always about testing. So whether it's through your content that you test, whether it's through your business model that you test, whether it's through finding out who's your ICP, right? All these require you to test, fail, and then figure out what's the best next step. And I think as an entrepreneur or someone who's even considering it, having this growth mindset would really help you in the process. Now, Matt, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Where can our listeners find you, and who should reach out to you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. If you just search Matt Barker, then you'll be looking for a headline that says fast, easy, and fun LinkedIn writing. I work predominantly with CEOs, founders, any kind of leader who wants to write LinkedIn posts better, faster, easier, have more fun actually doing it. So you can DM me, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And don't forget to check out Magic Post. I think Matt has shared lots of great stuff about it, so be sure to check that out as well. I will pop the links in the comments section. Thank you, folks, for tuning in, and don't forget to hit the bell for more actionable AI and marketing insights. We'll see you next week. Take care.